Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most critical developments of the ongoing war, how Ukraine is crippling Russia's oil industry. Once seen as the lifeblood of Moscow's power and influence, Russia's oil empire is now under pressure like never before. Ukraine has launched a campaign that targets not just military installations, but the economic engine fueling the Kremlin's war machine. Through precision strikes, economic disruption, and technological innovation, Ukraine is reshaping the entire dynamic of this conflict and hitting Russia where it hurts the most its wallet. From the outside, Russia's oil industry has always appeared untouchable. Stretching across thousands of kilometers, it includes vast fields in Siberia, pipelines snaking across the continent, refineries near the Black Sea, and massive export terminals that send crude and refined products across the globe. For decades, this system has kept Russia's economy afloat, providing nearly half of its national revenue. The exterior of this vast network projected dominance and stability, symbolizing a nation powered by energy wealth. But recently, that image has begun to crack. Ukraine's long-range drone strikes have exposed the vulnerability of what was once considered indestructible. Massive explosions at refineries in Bryansk, Belgorod, and even deep in Tatarstan have shown that no location is truly safe. These attacks are not random. They are targeted, precise, and deeply symbolic. Each burning refinery represents not just economic loss, but a blow to Russia's confidence. The sight of flames and black smoke rising from critical infrastructure inside Russia sends a clear message to both the Kremlin and the world. Ukraine can reach anywhere it wants. The interior of Russia's oil system is even more chaotic than it looks from the outside. Inside the refineries, maintenance teams are working around the clock, trying to patch up damage with limited resources. Spare parts that once came easily from Western suppliers are now nearly impossible to obtain because of sanctions. Engineers are forced to improvise with outdated Soviet-era equipment, using whatever tools they can find to keep operations running. Some refineries have halted production entirely, while others are producing well below capacity. The oil flow across pipelines has become inconsistent, causing disruptions in domestic fuel supply. Storage tanks in certain areas are overflowing due to transportation delays, while others are running dry. What was once a well-oiled machine has turned into a fragmented network of crisis management, with every worker aware that another drone could strike at any moment. Inside this system, the pressure is immense, and the fear is real. When it comes to performance, the numbers reveal the truth. Russia's oil industry is struggling to maintain its previous levels of output. Since Ukraine began its targeted drone campaign, several major refineries have gone offline for weeks or months. These shutdowns have reduced overall production by millions of tons and caused significant delays in exports. The Russian government tries to downplay these losses, insisting that operations remain stable. But international analysts see through the propaganda. The economic impact is massive. Oil is the backbone of Russia's economy, contributing almost 40% of its federal revenue. Every refinery that shuts down means less income for the state, less funding for the war effort, and less money flowing through the country's fragile economy. The performance metrics are sinking. And even though Russia continues to export oil to friendly nations like India and China, these buyers are demanding lower prices and tougher terms. As a result, Moscow's profits are shrinking, even as it pumps millions of barrels a day. The war machine that relies on oil money to sustain itself is now operating on fumes. Safety and security have always been a point of pride for Russia's energy sector. But Ukraine's campaign has exposed how outdated those safety systems truly are. For decades, Russia relied on old Soviet-era defenses and minimal upgrades to protect its energy infrastructure, but modern warfare doesn't play by those rules anymore. Ukraine's use of advanced drones, guided by satellite intelligence, has changed the battlefield completely. These drones, often built with commercial components, are inexpensive but incredibly precise. They travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, navigating radar systems and hitting targets with astonishing accuracy. Despite having one of the largest air defense networks in the world, Russia has failed to intercept many of these attacks. Each successful strike highlights the weakness of its so-called protective shield. In addition, cyber attacks have started to complement physical strikes. Ukrainian hackers and allied groups have reportedly breached databases belonging to Russian oil companies, disrupting logistics and shipment data. What was once considered one of Russia's most secure and profitable sectors is now one of its greatest vulnerabilities. The supposed safety features that once guarded its oil empire have become relics of a bygone era. What makes Ukraine's campaign stand out is its strategic brilliance. It's not about brute force, it's about precision, intelligence, and adaptability. Ukraine's approach is asymmetric, meaning it uses low-cost, high-impact tactics to challenge a much larger power. A single drone costing a few $1,000s can destroy a facility worth hundreds of millions. That kind of efficiency is reshaping the future of warfare. Ukraine doesn't just target any location. It carefully selects nodes that have the greatest ripple effect on Russia's operations. When a refinery or export terminal goes offline, it sets off a chain reaction across the economy. Fewer refined fuels mean transportation delays, increased domestic fuel prices, and export backlogs. It forces Russia to sell more crude oil, which is less profitable, instead of refined products. Beyond economics, there's a powerful psychological component. These strikes have made ordinary Russians realize that the war is no longer confined to Ukraine's borders. Cities far from the front lines now live in fear of explosions and fires. Investors, too, are losing confidence, viewing Russia as increasingly unstable and unpredictable. Ukraine's innovative approach has turned the tables in a way that no one expected. Despite facing a much larger and wealthier enemy, it has managed to weaponize technology and intelligence to compensate for its smaller military capacity. The country has proven that creativity can rival sheer strength. The world is watching closely, and other nations are studying Ukraine's methods as examples of modern asymmetric warfare. This is no longer a traditional conflict defined by tanks and troops. It's a battle of innovation, adaptability, and precision. Ukraine's success has also inspired a new wave of defense strategy globally, demonstrating that power in the 21st century is not just about how much firepower you have, but how effectively you can use it. The financial cost of this struggle is staggering but not equally distributed. For Russia, the losses are astronomical. Billions of dollars in infrastructure have been damaged or destroyed, with repair times stretching into years. Rebuilding refineries requires specialized materials and expertise that sanctions have made nearly impossible to access. Even transporting oil has become more expensive. Insurance premiums for Russian tankers have skyrocketed due to the high risk of attacks and sanctions. Some shipping companies refuse to handle Russian crude altogether, fearing international penalties or security incidents. As a result, Moscow is being forced to offer deeper discounts to attract buyers. Every sale now brings in less profit, while expenses for protection, repairs, and logistics continue to climb. The Kremlin is spending vast sums to install new air defenses and develop counter-drone systems, but even these efforts can't stop the bleeding. The financial strain is visible, and it's slowly eroding the foundations of Russia's war economy. For Ukraine, the cost of its drone campaign is far lower, yet the strategic return is immense. Building and operating these drones requires funding, but compared to the billions of dollars in damage inflicted on Russia, the investment is minimal. Ukraine's allies have also played a role, providing technical assistance, intelligence, and access to satellite data. The balance of cost versus effect could not be more lopsided. Ukraine's attacks have achieved what traditional military offensives could not. They've forced Russia to fight a war on its own soil, draining its resources and spreading its defenses thin. The price of this strategy is small in financial terms, but its psychological and strategic impact is enormous. The overall result is clear. Russia's oil empire is bleeding, and the consequences are far-reaching. The global energy market is feeling the tremors. Prices fluctuate with every new attack, investors remain cautious, and countries that depend on Russian oil are reevaluating their energy strategies. For the Kremlin, this is more than just an economic problem, it's a political and existential one. Oil revenues are the foundation of its power, both domestically and internationally. Losing control over that lifeline weakens Russia's ability to project strength and maintain influence abroad. The long-term damage may take years to fully appear, but the trajectory is already evident. Ukraine's campaign has done what few believed possible. It has turned Russia's greatest strength into one of its biggest weaknesses. In conclusion, what we are witnessing is not just a series of drone strikes, it's a revolution in modern warfare and economic strategy. Ukraine has proven that precision, intelligence, and adaptability can overcome sheer scale and wealth. The once mighty Russian oil empire is now vulnerable, scarred, and under siege. Every refinery hit, every export delayed, and every lost dollar in revenue brings Moscow one step closer to economic exhaustion. This isn't only about destroying physical infrastructure. It's about dismantling the financial engine behind Russia's aggression. Ukraine's strategy has shown the world that true power lies in innovation and resilience, not just in firepower. The battle for energy dominance has entered a new phase, and Ukraine has changed the rules forever. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to stay tuned for more in-depth breakdowns of global events that are reshaping the balance of power around the world.